So I am just on the BJJ Fanatics website, and what's amazing is now we've already talked about gravity is your friend, but there are 2 other instructionals that you might want to talk about.
Recently, I had the opportunity to work with BJJ Fanatics guy, and now we have 3 instructionals out there. We have escapes engineered for guys over 40. If you're 40 or more, hey, dig into it. Gravity's your friend. Sit-up sweeps. Been there for some time, and it's really, really getting a lot of attention. And then we have the smash the knee folding pass. Now, that's one of my favorites. So if you haven't looked at them, take a look. BJJfanatics.com.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
I realize.
Ended the last one of these laughing, and I'm starting this one laughing too. So we just had a very awesome conversation. That was like, I don't know, it was all over the place. We talked, but I think we got really good information on each of those things that we talked about. And one of the things that I was really thinking about is a lot of what we talked about, there was always some sort of side effect, whether we were talking about diet or exercise or our mindset, how all those things, have some sort of side effect or repercussion, and how we deal with all those things, or what we do, or what we put in our body, is really up to us. Like fundamentally, when you get right down to it, but how that could also be very hard sometimes for certain people. So, and how those side effects really kind of roll, negatively, or positively, but they build on each other. If we were talking about.
So explain more. I don't think anybody knows what you're talking about.
Well, so let's start with taking a pill because you want your pain to stop, and you take that pill, but you take it too often. Now, what are those side effects? And maybe you got to take a second pill to help you with that first one, and then a third. And we were talking to Robert Miller, and Robert's point was the next thing you know, you're taking 7 pills, right? Where had you not taken that first one and you did something that would have a positive side effect to control that pain, whether it's range of motion, working out correctly, things like that, you wouldn't have to deal with all those negative ones. And what's the side effect of that? It's all these positive effects where you can keep building on, right? So you build all these positive situations out of it rather than all the negative ones, which seem to have a bigger impact on us.
Isn't a side effect positive too?
Well, yeah, you have one or the other, right?
So side effect essentially is a consequence behind whatever took place.
Sure. Or whatever you're taking or whatever you're doing. Take Jiu Jitsu.
So something non-primary that we were not planning on achieving, but it happened anyway as a result of what we were doing.
Yeah, that's a great way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great way to look at it, right?
So what would be a side effect of jiu-jitsu?
The big one, comfortable and uncomfortable situations, right? I think that's a big one because it can carry over to all these.
Is that side effect or is that a goal?
I think it's a side effect. I don't think you're aware of it. I don't think most people don't go into jiu-jitsu knowing that that's going to happen.
I see. If you look at it from that perspective. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to jiu-jitsu because I want to defend myself.
I was looking from an instructor perspective.
Yeah. So
that's my goal, to teach students, right? Be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, right?
And I'm looking at it from the student or the new person of being, I'm going in that gym to learn self-defense. I'm going in there to get a workout.
Well, like mobility would be another one, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody signs up for jiu-jitsu to be more mobile, yet you achieve mobility by doing what we do, right?
Yeah.
Or like cauliflower ears. That's a side effect.
It is, isn't it?
That's a side
or
effect,
well,
right?
unless you're one of those knuckleheads that smashes the 2 bottles together on your ear to make it look.
Yeah, that's different.
Right. There's one of the negatives though, is that I don't know if there's too many negatives, but
no, there's plenty. I think there's plenty. I think there's probably as many negative side effects to jiu-jitsu as there are positive.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Knees, fingers, you know, I mean, just most of them are surrounded around injuries, physicality, the physical components, you know, but I think there are also mental ones, frustration, you know, the
Yeah, but I think as you,
you know?
it is. As you learn, I think as you go forward and you learn, other than the physical ones, I think those things fall away or you quit. You know, I think your frustration level goes down because you've learned the problem solving skills, right? I walked off the mat today really frustrated.
One would hope.
Yeah. You saw it on me when I came and sat down in here today. You were like, what's bothering you? What's bothering you? I was really frustrated when I walked off the mat today. Why? Well, it could be the obvious things of I had 4 really, in my mind, terrible rounds. But why did I have 4 terrible rounds? I had 4 terrible rounds because I'm not on the mat enough. So I already figured out how to get around my frustration, right? Why? Because I figured out what's the solution? The solution is get on the mat more so that I can execute better, right? So that I can do the things that I want to do, because I can watch a million videos. I can have a private, but if I'm not on the mat more, then what does it matter, right? So why am I so frustrated? So I can either carry this frustration around with me until tomorrow night when I can get back on the mat, or no, well, I've got my problem solved already. So now all I got to do is wait till tomorrow night.
So how can you use the side effects to benefit yourself?
I just applying them all the time in different situations, whether it's on the mat or in business or at home or, you know, I don't know why, but the last couple conversations it's all, you know, something happens in traffic, you know, what's a big deal? So what? Something happens in traffic. It is an unsolvable situation. It just is what it is. The moment's over. Let it go. Pulling up behind the person isn't going to help. Slamming on your horn isn't going to help.
So how can
giving them the finger isn't going to help?
How do you apply side effects to jiu-jitsu?
Well, I just gave an example.
No, you're talking about traffic.
Well, I gave you an example of my frustration leaving the mat, right? Because you said frustration can be a negative one.
I get it.
I figured it out.
Okay. You're saying carrying it off the mat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my problem today, my frustration today, which could be a negative side effect of jiu-jitsu, you were saying, is already gone. You know, it took me a little bit to figure it out.
It's only gone if you acknowledge it and fix it. I mean,
yes.
The frustration of jiu-jitsu is not necessarily today was a sucky day, because you're going to have the same recollection when you come back tomorrow, unless you make corrections and changes and really take it to heart how to improve.
Yes. And that's the side
effects. It will
effects.
continue over and over.
Sure.
This is why people quit jiu-jitsu, because they get frustrated with either quote unquote no progress, which is not the case, or it's hard, it's difficult, and so on. So, it will only change if you change it. That's the main point.
And I think almost all side effects are like that if you're talking about something like, you know, medications and stuff, I'm assuming there could be a point of no return. If you know,
same thing with jiu-jitsu. There could be a point of no return.
Well, then you quit, right?
Well, do you?
I don't know.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah. I guess that's the way around it. But like I look at these like extremes and negative side effects as time goes by, build up to an extreme.
I think it's so hard, so easy to hyper focus on negative side effects. Mm-hmm. We don't talk about positive stuff. Like even this conversation.
Well, I think
every few seconds it just goes into negative.
Well, I think
it goes into negatives, right? I look at it as positive things. I look at it as, what did I take away? You know, what did I gain from this experience that I was not planning on gaining?
Right. I don't know. I'll have to go back.
This is not why I came here, right? And yet I got this golden nugget. I got this this little thing. This was unplanned, and it is a side effect. Mm-hmm. It's a side effect of the circumstance or decisions that I made.
Yeah, and I think early in the conversation, you know, we were talking about like the being frustrated or comfortable in the uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. That's a side effect, right?
Yeah.
knowing how to handle stress, I think, is a side effect that people don't often see. Because when I started,
say again,
being able to handle stress,
able to handle stress
because of all the stressors that are involved in jiu-jitsu. I think people
controlling emotions. Yeah.
I think people come in here and they're like, and it doesn't matter their athleticism or anything. They're like, oh, I'm going to learn how to choke somebody. I'm going to learn how to do an arm bar. Well, guess what? You're going to learn how to be choked first, way more often than you're choking people. You're going to be, your joint manipulation is going to happen to you way more than it happens to other people, or more than you're doing it. So I think that's one of those side effects, is that you learn how to handle all those, or, you don't. But I think if you stick with it, you can learn how to deal with all that, and it affects you greatly in good, positive ways.
Yeah. No, let's hope that's the case. I think, I think, a lot of people struggle with that part. Things happen. This is not why I came here. And these, whatever, ABC happened to me, and now I can't continue. I don't want to continue. I choose not to continue, and so on. So I think looking at it in a positive light of what did I gain from it, that I was not planning on gaining. It's big and often underestimated.
Yeah.
I don't think people do it enough.
Yeah. There's two ways to look at something. It's like, don't put myself in that situation again, or it sucks, I'm always in that situation.
It's perspective. It's perspective on life. We talked about this many times. It's glass half full, glass half empty. Mm-hmm. There's people, seeing.
Well, Robert was talking about his stress cup. Like, he was talking about, like, crushing a workout, which he doesn't like to do. Mm-hmm. But he was like, you crush this workout, you're amped up, and you're heading home, and something happens, and like you're raging out. It's because your stressors are so high. Mm-hmm. If great side effect is jiu-jitsu is it helps you lower those stressors, where when something does happen, it just goes in that cup, but the cup's not overflowing. And you can take it out.
Well, that was his main
in a positive way.
Yeah, that was his main point, to keep the balance, right? It's not that you can't, that you can avoid these things. It's how do you manage them? How do you control your emotions internally and your behaviors externally to really have this good balance? And I think he was talking how the physical nature of what you're doing relates to the emotional, or and I think that when you have that physical nature on the mats, eventually, of being able to let go and relax, and being on bottom, and figuring out how to get out technically, properly, rather than pushing and shoving and reacting. And what's the side effect of getting smashed? You got to get out of there, right? But that's one way to handle it. Or the other way is, how do I technically, smartly get out of here? And I think that when you learn to do that, that's just another one of those wonderful side effects that it has, that you're probably not aware of when you walk through the door. Oh, and that's big. I think that's a big point. Acknowledgement of these side effects, negative or positive. Do you see them? Did you notice them? What are you going to do about it? How are you going to adjust from this point going forward? That's the growth, right? That's the stimulation of your mind and making decisions for the future, smart decisions for the future, to continue whether jiu-jitsu or whatever you're focusing on in life.
Yeah. I mean, you ask all the time, it's funny, when people come in for a class, what brings you here? And I would say 60%, 70% is, I want to get in shape. I want to try something new. And I want to defend myself. Like it's the package, right? It's not three different answers. It's the one they give them all at once. Yeah. But you'll often find, you'll find people that are like, well, I'm looking for something mentally stimulating. And it's like, oh, that person's done their research. They know a little bit more about jiu-jitsu than those other people, and that mental stimulation, I think, is talking about positive and negative side effects, is one of those really positive ones that people don't really see until they've hung around for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Isn't it interesting how an activity or a hobby or sport, whatever you call it, could really impact us in a great way And we're not even trying to do any of that. Like it just kind of comes as a residue, you know?
Yeah.
Kind
Well,
of,
it's that side. I mean, it's funny. You don't want to say it because
right. I'm avoiding. Right. I'm avoiding the word. Right. But it's I'm doing that intentionally. But it's like we you know, I think humans are such a fascinating creatures. You know, we adapt and we continue learning, and I think that's why jiu-jitsu is so fascinating. You know, and people from different corners of the world, different ages and sizes and whatever shapes they are, and can, you know, continue learning it and for a very, very long time, and it just doesn't get bored.
Yeah, I mean it's constantly evolving. It's already if jiu-jitsu stopped evolving right now, no new techniques, nothing. It just stopped. There is still so like the journey isn't going to be lesser than, you know, some people will learn it a little quicker just because of who they are, but it's so deep already, I guess is what I'm getting at, that there's so much to explore already that innovation, I mean, you don't even need to think about innovating, right? I mean, you can just let it unfold naturally. And then, you know, obviously it's going to keep going and there's more to learn. That new stuff, I'm just talking in circles, but you know what I mean? It's like if jiu-jitsu stopped evolving right now, it would still take the average person 8 to 10 years to get their black belt. If it just stopped. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about it. You know, we talk about traditional martial arts. You get that kick down and now you can do it 50 times. It stops. There's no innovation there. There's nothing new. It doesn't get any deeper. You've mastered that technique. And it's funny because I don't think there's any mastery. You know, we were talking, that might've been one of the things we were going to talk about, right? Is don't be an expert today. I don't think there's any mastery of a technique in jiu-jitsu because everybody can put their own little spin on it. Everybody, their physicality, how their brain works, right? There's no mastery of it. It's like, I've got a pretty good, not me personally, but let's say I've got really awesome open guard, right? Are you done then? No, because somebody's going to come along who knows something you don't about passing that you haven't seen yet. You haven't figured out yet. And you're going to have to add that to your skill set. You know, I think it's amazing. I think that's one of the coolest things about it. It could also be one of the most daunting things about it. Like if we're going positive and negatives, it could be like, oh, Jesus, I'm never going to, some people look at that end game.
Yeah.
I'm never going to learn all there is.
The room for interpretation in jiu-jitsu is quite large, and the learning curve is quite steep too.
Yeah,
so.
and don't look at not knowing, not learning everything as a negative. Look at it as a challenge. It's fun. It's just keep going, you know?
Yeah. Hopefully a lot of people will take something from it and continue training and continue doing this amazing thing. And I do think that it will continue evolving. I don't think we can stop that.
No.
It's I think the evolution is really what drives it forward, and because we have so many people doing it with so many different ideas and so many different ways, the evolution will only get faster and faster and faster. So I say buckle up.
Cool. Fun.
All right. Let's wrap this up for today.
All right. See you.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.